Episode 6. The sewer-born oracle. After the Black Anvil fell, the Empire stopped pretending it was wounded. It admitted that it was afraid. Kale held Rome with the dragons of the Forum. Nera held Ravenna with the storm. Milo held Ostia with Cindermaw and the freed workers of the forge. 3 cities had broken their collars. 3 thrones had been shattered. And across the old roads of the Empire, the poor began whispering the same dangerous sentence. Maybe kings could fall. So the surviving senators fled south to Capua, the city of blood games, golden villas, and the arena of mirrors. They did not come with legions. Legions could be defeated. They did not come with dragon collars. Collars could be broken. They came with something older than chains and sharper than swords. They came with prophecy. Beneath the arena of mirrors, behind silver glass walls and 7 locked gates, the Augurs of Capua kept a dragon no crowd had ever seen. The dragon was called Vitrion. Vitrion was not a fire dragon, not a storm dragon, not a beast of smoke or iron. His scales were made of pale mirror glass, his wings were thin and luminous, and every movement of his body reflected 100 possible futures. Those who looked into his eyes saw themselves as they truly were. The brave saw their scars. The cruel saw their rot. The guilty saw the faces they had tried to bury. That was why the nobles kept him chained in darkness. They did not want truth. They wanted a weapon that looked like truth. At the bottom of Capua, far below the marble seats of the arena, lived a boy named Elias. He was 17, poor, and born in the sewer tunnels beneath the city. He had 1 cloudy eye, 1 crooked shoulder, and a limp from a fever no healer had ever bothered to treat. He cleaned drainage grates, carried dead rats from the arena channels, and scraped old blood from the stone gutters after executions. The guards called him Gutter Limp. The noble children called him Sewer-born. The young augur mages called him Broken. Whenever Elias passed under the arena steps with his bucket and hook, rich boys would toss coins into the filth and tell him to dive for them. Sometimes he did, not because he wanted their laughter, because a coin meant bread, and bread meant living 1 more day in a city that had already decided he should not matter. Elias had learned not to look angry. Anger made poor boys visible, and in Capua, visible poor boys vanished. But there was one thing Elias could do that no one understood. He could hear lies. Not always, not like words in the air. It was more like a pressure behind his cloudy eye, a cold ache in the bone. When a guard swore he had not stolen bread from a slave child, Elias felt the lie like a thorn. When a noble praised mercy while ordering a beating, Elias felt the lie crawl through the room like smoke. He never told anyone. Truth was dangerous when spoken by someone with no power. On the 7th night after Ostia burned gold, Capua prepared for the greatest spectacle in its history. The senators announced a ceremony called the Seeing of the True Emperor. Every noble house was invited. Every surviving dragon mage was summoned. The poor were forced into the upper shadows of the arena so they could witness their own future. High Augur Cassivar promised that Vitrion would reveal the one ruler chosen by fate to end the dragon rebellion. The crowd loved the word fate. It made cruelty sound clean. Elias was ordered to scrub the mirror channels beneath the arena before dawn. He climbed down through the drainage steps with a lantern in 1 hand and a rusted hook in the other. The tunnels below the arena were colder than the rest of Capua. Water dripped from the ceiling. Old glass fragments glittered in the walls. The deeper he walked, the louder the ache behind his cloudy eye became. Someone was lying below him. Not 1 person, hundreds. The pain guided him through a cracked service gate and into a forgotten corridor, lined with mirrors turned toward the wall. Elias should have gone back. Every poor child in Capua knew that hidden doors belonged to rich men, and rich men punished curiosity more harshly than theft. But then he heard a voice, not with his ears. Inside the ache, little truth-bearer, Elias froze. The lantern shook in his hand. Again the voice came, old and broken. They will make me crown a liar. Elias followed the corridor until it opened into a chamber, so vast his lantern could not reach the roof. At the center of it, chained between 7 pillars of silver glass, lay Vitrion. The mirror dragon was beautiful in a way that hurt to see. His body was long and pale, every scale reflecting some fragment of Elias's face. The lantern flame, the dripping stone, the city above. His wings were folded and pinned by spears of white metal. Around his neck was a collar made of mirrors, each shard filled with trapped faces whispering silently. Elias stepped closer. Every reflection showed him differently. In one shard, he was still the limp boy with sewer mud on his feet. In another, he stood in golden armor. In another, he was dead in the arena sand. Vitrion opened one silver eye. Elias nearly dropped the lantern. "I am not here to hurt you," he whispered. The dragon's eye turned slowly toward him. "No," said the voice inside his mind. "You are here because you hurt when lies are spoken." Before Elias could answer, the chamber flooded with torchlight. High Augur Cassivar entered with 12 mirror mages, 30 guards, and Prince Marcellus, the senator's chosen heir. Cassivar was tall, thin, and wrapped in white robes stitched with silver eyes. His face was smooth from age magic, but his gaze was empty and cold. Marcellus was 19, handsome, and dressed in gold armor that had never touched a battlefield. They saw Elias standing near the chained dragon. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Marcellus laughed. "The sewer-born has found the oracle." The mages laughed with him. The guards laughed harder because princes enjoyed being echoed. Cassivar did not laugh. He looked at Elias, the way a butcher looked at a stain. "How did you pass the gates?" Elias tried to step back, but guards seized him by both arms. "I was cleaning the channels," he said. Marcellus walked closer and wrinkled his nose. "It smells like the channels followed you." More laughter filled the chamber. One of the young mirror mages tilted Elias's chin up with a silver wand. "Look at his eye," she said. Even his face could not decide what shape to be. The laughter grew sharper. Elias said nothing. He had survived worse than words. But Vitrion's chains began to tremble. Cassivar noticed. His eyes narrowed. "Bring the boy to the ceremony," he said. Marcellus smiled. "As entertainment?" "As proof," Cassivar replied. "When the oracle names you emperor, let the sewer-born kneel first. Capua will enjoy seeing the lowest creature in the city accept the highest." At sunset, the arena of mirrors filled with 100,000 voices. The walls were plated with polished silver glass. Every torch multiplied into 1,000 flames. Every noble face became an army of noble faces, watching from every angle. Poor families were packed into the highest shadows, silent and thin. Guards stood at every exit. Dragon mages lined the sand with mirror staffs. At the center of the arena stood Prince Marcellus beneath a golden canopy. Beside him stood High Augur Cassivar, and at their feet, with wrists bound and mud still on his legs, stood Elias. The crowd began to chant, "Emperor! Emperor! Emperor!" Marcellus raised both hands, as if he had already won a war. Cassivar lifted his staff, and the arena floor opened. Vitrion was dragged into the light by 7 teams of chained war horses and 20 mirror mages. The crowd gasped when they saw him. Some wept from beauty, others recoiled, afraid of what the dragon's scales might show them. The mirror collar around his neck flashed with trapped faces. Elias felt the lie so strongly he nearly fell. The ceremony began. Cassivar spoke of destiny. He spoke of order. He spoke of bloodlines and noble duty, and the sacred need to crush rebels before chaos swallowed the empire. Every sentence hurt Elias like a hook under the ribs. Marcellus stepped before Vitrion, smiling for the mirrors. Show them," he commanded. "Show them the emperor fate has chosen." Cassivar's mages drove their staffs into the sand. Silver light raced across the arena floor. The mirror collar tightened around Vitrion's throat. The dragon shuddered, and a great reflection rose above the arena, larger than any banner. Marcellus crowned in white fire. The nobles roared, but Elias saw the edges of the vision crack. Behind the crown, behind the white fire, behind the handsome smile, he saw the truth. Marcellus standing over burning villages, chained hatchlings, dead servants, and cities drowned in glass. He saw Capua turned into a prison of reflections, where every poor person was forced to see themselves kneeling forever. Elias gasped. Cassivar heard him. The augur turned slowly. "You see the flaw," he whispered. Marcellus stopped smiling. The arena quieted just enough for fear to enter. Cassivar raised his voice. "Behold the mercy of the chosen emperor. Before he is crowned, he will cleanse the city of doubt." He pointed his staff at Elias. "Let the broken boy face the mirror." The guards threw Elias into the center of the sand. Laughter rolled down from the noble seats. Marcellus stepped toward him, gold armor shining. "You should be grateful," the prince said. "Most sewer rats die unseen. You will die in front of everyone." Cassivar ordered the trial of reflection. The mirror mages struck the sand with their staffs, and the arena walls awakened. Reflections poured out of every silver plate. They became people Elias had feared all his life. Overseers, guards, rich boys, laughing mages, dead-eyed nobles. Each reflection carried a blade of glass. The crowd cheered. Elias ran. His limp made him slow. The first glass blade cut his shoulder. The second tore his tunic. He stumbled across the sand as reflections surrounded him, each one repeating the words he had heard since childhood. Gutter limp, sewer born, broken. Nothing. The mirrors showed him falling. They showed him drowning in the drainage channels. They showed him kneeling forever. They showed him as the city wanted him to be. Small, dirty, ashamed, and grateful for scraps. Elias tried to crawl away. Marcellus laughed so hard he bent forward. "Look at him," the prince shouted. "This is what rebellion gives you." A cripple in the sand, chased by his own shadow. The poor in the upper seats did not laugh. They watched Elias bleeding below them, and in him they saw themselves. Vitrion saw it too. The mirror dragon lifted his head, the collar cut into his throat. Cassivar slammed his staff down. "Do not move." The dragon froze, shaking. Elias heard the command as a lie. Not because Cassivar had not spoken it, because no living thing was born to obey forever. Elias stopped running. The reflections closed in. He looked at them, really looked at them, and understood what the mirrors were doing. They were not showing truth. They were showing fear dressed as fate. So he stood. Blood ran down his arm. His cloudy eye burned cold. "I am afraid," Elias whispered. The reflections paused. "But I am not your lie." The arena mirrors cracked. The sound was small at first, like ice under a foot. Then it spread. Silver lines raced across every wall, every staff, every polished shield. The ache behind Elias's eye burst open into light. Not gold, not blue, not fire. Clear light. Merciless light. The kind that showed what stood in front of it and did not flatter. Vitrion roared. The mirror collar shattered. Faces trapped in the shards flew out as streams of pale light. The dragon rose, wings unfolding over the arena, each glass feather reflecting a different truth. Nobles screamed and covered their eyes. Poor children stared upward, mouths open, seeing beauty that had not been bought. Cassivar staggered back. "Impossible." Elias turned toward him. On the boy's forehead, just above his cloudy eye, a silver mark appeared. It was shaped like an open eye breaking through a chain. Vitrion lowered his head behind Elias. The dragon bowed. The crowd went silent. Marcellus drew his sword. "No," he said. "No sewer-born thing stands above me." He charged. Elias did not move. Vitrion spread one wing, and every mirror in the arena turned toward Marcellus. The prince saw himself, not as the crowd saw him, not as painters made him, not as senators praised him. He saw himself as he was, a frightened boy wrapped in gold, cruel because he was empty, hungry for a throne, because nothing inside him could stand on its own. Marcellus screamed and dropped his sword. The crowd saw it too. The perfect prince collapsed to his knees, clawing at his own reflection. Cassivar attacked next. He raised all 12 mirror mages at once. Silver lances of prophecy shot across the sand toward Elias, each one carrying a false future. Kale dead, Nera chained, Milo burned, Cindermaw skinned, Vitrion blind, the poor kneeling for another 1,000 years. Elias lifted one hand. The silver mark on his brow opened. "Show the truth," he said. The false futures broke. Every mirror lance turned backward and struck the mages who cast them. Their masks cracked. Their robes tore. Each mage saw the lives they had ruined. Servants sold, children starved, dragons chained, prisoners named traitors for wanting air. They fell screaming into the sand, not dead. Awake, Cassivar alone remained standing. His smooth face had begun to age. Wrinkles spread from his eyes. The magic that had kept him beautiful peeled away like paint in rain. "I made prophecy," he hissed. "I shaped fate." Elias walked toward him across the broken arena. "No," he said. "You shaped mirrors and taught them to lie." Cassivar thrust his staff into the sand and called upon the deepest spell of Capua. The arena became a maze. Walls of silver glass erupted from the ground, separating Elias from Vitrion, separating the poor from the exits, separating every person from every person beside them. Reflections multiplied until there were 1,000 Eliases, 1,000 Cassivars, 1,000 dragons roaring in broken light. For a moment, even Elias could not tell where he stood. Then he heard Vitrion inside the clear light. "Truth-bearer, do not search for yourself. Meech for the lie." Elias closed his good eye. The maze shifted around him. He listened. Every false reflection hummed with fear. Every fake wall whispered that he was small. Every illusion begged him to bow. There, at the center of the maze, Cassivar hid behind a reflection of Elias kneeling. Elias opened his cloudy eye. the kneeling reflection shattered. Vitrion burst through the maze wall in a storm of glass wings. The dragon's tail swept across the sand, breaking mirror after mirror. Poor citizens found one another through the cracks. Guards dropped their spears. Noble families screamed as their own reflections turned to face them. For the first time in Capua, everyone saw everyone. The poor saw that the nobles were not gods. The nobles saw that the poor were not shadows. And Cassivar saw Elias, the boy he had dragged from the gutters, the boy he had meant to use as a prop, the boy the oracle had chosen. Cassivar tried to run. Vitrion landed before him. The mirror dragon did not burn him. He did not tear him apart. He opened both wings, and every scale reflected Cassivar's life back at him. Every lie, every stolen future, every prisoner he had called necessary, every dragon he had forced to crown a tyrant. Cassivar screamed until his voice broke. Then he fell to his knees. Elias looked up at the arena. The crowd waited. So did the poor. So did the guards. So did every noble who had laughed when he bled. Elias turned to Marcellus. The prince was still kneeling in the sand, shaking. "Stand," Elias said. Marcellus looked up, stunned. "What?" "Stand. Pick up your sword." The prince obeyed because fear had made him obedient. Elias pointed toward the poor seats. "Now look at them." Marcellus turned. Thousands of hungry faces looked back. "Every one of them was told they were born below you," Elias said. "Every one of them carried your city while you called it destiny." Marcellus trembled. "I am the chosen heir." Vitrion's wings flashed. The arena showed the truth one final time. There was no divine crown above Marcellus, no white fire, no fate, only a frightened noble boy standing in borrowed gold. The sword slipped from his hand. Marcellus knelt again. This time, not before prophecy. Before truth, the noble houses followed slowly. First one senator lowered his head, then another. Then the dragon mages who could still move. Then the guards who had spent their lives obeying whoever owned the loudest command. At last, the entire lower arena was kneeling. Senators in silk, young nobles in gold, mirror mages with cracked masks, Prince Marcellus with sand on his perfect armor, High Augur Cassivar, with his forehead pressed into the dust. The upper seats did not kneel. The poor stood. Elias looked at them and understood why. They had kneeled enough. Vitrion lowered one wing, not as a throne, but as a bridge. Elias climbed onto it with difficulty, his limp still there, his shoulder still crooked, his cloudy eye still clouded. The power had not made him beautiful in the way nobles understood beauty. It had made him impossible to erase. Vitrion lifted him above the arena. The mirror walls reflected him across Capua. The sewer-born boy, bleeding and barefoot, silver mark blazing above his eye, standing beside the dragon who showed the truth. Elias raised his hand. "No one is born beneath another soul," he said. The words moved through the mirrors, out of the arena, across the villas, into the kitchens, the barracks, the baths, the prisons, the alleys, the drainage tunnels, where children still slept beside rats and cold water. And everywhere the words went, mirrors cracked, not because truth destroys reflection, because truth destroys cages. By dawn, the arena of mirrors had no emperor. It had no oracle chained below the sand. It had no prophecy for sale. Vitrion flew above Capua for the first time in centuries, wings scattering sunrise into 1,000 honest lights. Poor families poured from the upper seats onto the arena floor. Guards opened the gates, slaves tore silver eyes from the walls. Nobles remained kneeling until the last gutter child had walked past them, without bowing. Elias returned to the drainage steps where his bucket and rusted hook still lay. He picked them up. Marcellus, still on his knees, looked confused. "Why take those?" he asked. Elias looked at the bucket, then at the prince. "So I remember what you called low." Then he set the bucket on the prince's golden cloak and walked away. The poor laughed first. Not cruel laughter, free laughter. It rose through the arena like morning birds, through broken glass. Vitrion landed beside Elias, lowering his luminous head. The boy placed one scarred hand against the dragon's mirror scale. For one moment, he saw every version of himself again. The sewer child, the bleeding victim, the boy in gold, the boy dead in sand, the boy standing beneath sunrise. Then all the reflections became one. Elias smiled. He was not the shape Capua had given him. He was not the lie the nobles had named. He was the truth they failed to bury. And, from that day on, when powerful men spoke false prophecy in marble halls, every mirror in Capua trembled because the sewer-born boy was listening. Elias, the mirror-bearer. Elias, the chosen of Vitrion. Elias, the oracle no empire could buy.